I realized I wanted to live a well thought out life, meaning I want to know what I believe and why I believe it, and how do I know that's true.
Like where you're from and a little bit about how you got to where you are today and what you're doing in the world of teaching, and a little bit about your journey. That would be wonderful.
Okay. I was hoping to come and hear about you and your journey and learn from you, but maybe we'll learn from each other. Dov Ber from England originally, and I lived a very typical, lots of sports and lots of dance, music, clubbing type life. I did philosophy at Manchester University, which is basically a waste of time. It's what you do when you can't think of anything else to do, basically. And I realized that I wasn't particularly happy, and no one I knew was particularly happy. And people in general were living kind of mediocre lives. So I decided at some point that I wasn't just going to go with it, and I'm going to work out, what am I meant to do? My grandfather died when he was 100.
Well,
And he said to me when he was older, over 90, he said, you don't want to live an I should have life. You don't want to get to my age and look back on your life and think I really should have traveled and worked out what I'm living for and what's important or how to be happy. And I heard that. So I was like, I'm actually going to take some time. It's really the beginning of Mesilas Yesharim. What am I doing here? So I realized that Western culture can't be the answer, because really people don't seem to have the best values. And I looked at Judaism on a very surface level, and it didn't seem to me much better. So, like any nice Jewish boy looking for the truth and watching lots of Bruce Lee films, I decided that the East and Eastern wisdom is where to find the truth. And I spent 6 years living in Asia, silent meditation retreats and martial arts and yoga and fasting and all that way of life, which was wonderful. And I was going to go to South America to canoe down the Amazon. And I stopped in Israel for about 3 weeks, 12 years ago, and as many people do now. And I realized that Judaism has a lot more to it than meets the eye. And I also saw, I'd always ask, because I did philosophy, I was kind of conscious through some of the classes. I realized I wanted to live a well thought out life, meaning I want to know what I believe and why I believe it, and how do I know that's true. I asked my Buddhist masters, I know what Buddhism believes, and I used to teach it in a university in Thailand, and I think it's beautiful, but how do you know it's actually true? And they'd be like, because Buddha says it's true. And I said, okay, but how do you know he's right? So I had this question always, how do you know it's right? How do you know this is the truth? The truth. Not just a truth, which is sweet, but how do you know this is true? And no one gave me a good answer until I came to Israel, and those Jews, they've already got an answer. And the answer to that question, how do you know you're right, is always evidence. How do you know anything? Because there's evidence that suggests it. So I saw evidence that there's no way a human being could have written the Torah. And I also saw that the Torah teaches all these beautiful, deep ideas that I didn't realize it did teach. So I didn't want to become religious. So I put the evidence on atheist forums. And I said, you need to help me refute the evidence, because I don't want to be a religious Jew at that time. I didn't realize how beautiful and sweet it was. And I walked, do you know the Israel National Trail from the Lebanese border to Eilat? It's a walking path, Shul Israel. So it's 1,100 kilometers. And I walked it in 40 days. And just to think about what am I really doing, and give the atheists time to refute. I put it on all these atheist websites. Can you refute the evidence? And I was in contact with them and no one could. So I realized not only is it actually empowering and sweet and beautiful and conscious, but it's also actually truth of reality. So I very slowly started implementing and integrating it in my life, whilst also integrating everything that I'd been through into my life as well.
Wow,